I'm hearing, if I can turn back time, I can find a way, which is very interesting. Show me more, Spirit. Show me more. I love you, Dan. Show me more, Spirit. Show me more. It's almost like looking at a crossroads right now, and it can go two different ways, and you're just not quite sure which way to go, but you also don't want to repeat the past mistakes. So it's like trying to really assess where you're at emotionally with something. This could be in a connection with somebody. But you got to remember, you guys, when it talks about like connection with somebody, always really self-reflect and see if it's connection to self. Because when we're looking at relationships, we somehow, when we listen to these reads, forget that there's also the relationship to self. And sometimes these reads can be you with you, and you're looking externally, right? And so the fact that they're making me bring this up really tells me that this is like really cemented in you with you, even if there's external situations happening that are similar. It's like being at a crossroads and having enough courage to try and figure your life out and really trying to reassess your situation because you're emotionally invested in something, but you also don't want to make the mistakes that you made in the past. And so you're trying to be very practical. You're trying to move very slowly, but you're hoping for the best with this situation. How many people resonate with that right now? And if you're actually dealing with somebody here, I see a heavy water sign. I see a Taurus energy. I see a Leo. Clearing around the energy, please. Clearing around. But this is like a lesson here, right? Before you can have what you really want, Spirit is like shaking you up and giving you a wake-up call, being like, hey, look, this is a pivotal moment for you to self-reflect and decide, who do you decide to be? Not what anyone else tells you to be. Not what the world tells you to be, right? Not what your value is told by somebody else, right? Who cares if you're not chosen by this person? Who cares if you're not in a relationship? Who cares if you're still waiting for love? Your value is not put on external factors. Your value is internal, right? So why are you giving your value away? And it's like a check-in with self and being like, let's self-reflect and realize how sometimes we can be our own worst enemy because we're allowing toxicity into our lives because we're thinking that, you know, we can overcome it and not set the boundaries necessary with the people around us. Hi, Pisces Vision. Good morning, ma'am. Eat spinach. I love you, Pisces. I love you guys. If you're not following Pisces, she's an incredible reader. She's also a bestie of mine here on TikTok. I highly recommend you follow her. We got to be strong. Yeah, and I'm really hearing like not my monkey, not my circus. So this tells me that a lot of you in this collective try, but your heart sometimes makes you a people pleaser. You try so hard to really protect yourself, but when push comes to shove, you will self-sacrifice yourself just to make somebody else's life easier, just to make others feel at ease, right? And it's time for us to really ask ourselves, why do we do that? Why? Right? Are we in denial and not realizing that it's a form of self-abandonment? That if we're not secure within ourselves, how can we ever be secure with the external elements, external relationships, that external job, external security? Because your external world only reflects your internal world. And so how do you communicate with yourself? What beliefs do you allow yourself to hold on to? What narratives are you carrying? I do feel like Uranus has a lot to do with this. Uranus went into Gemini, so look to see where Gemini is in your house. Uranus created this shift. Gosh, I'm so tired. In July. What was the exact date? If someone remembers, I'm like brain fried right now. But Uranus and Gemini, I feel, has a lot to play with this. I feel like they're shaking us up. And, you know, this is kind of like revolutionary for us on a spiritual sense because it's like there's something here that no longer belongs. And now it's your duty to yourself to self-reflect and figure out what piece no longer belongs. What am I doing in my life that makes me feel like I'm not worthy of setting a boundary? I'm not worthy of receiving something. I'm not worthy of respect, right? What is that switch for you? And how can you rewrite your story so that switch lays dormant? Did I say dormant? Dormant. Guys, I'm so tired. I'm running on like 4 hours sleep. Because it almost feels like sometimes it's so overwhelming because it's like you have your shit to take care of, your life is stressful enough, and then you take on stresses from everybody else. And you don't see that you are unable to carry it all. So what happens? You carry the burdens of others while you suffer silently, and it becomes too much, and then you get taken down by the weight of it while you ease someone else's weight. Why? When did you wake up and decide that you were going to choose to be a martyr? Right? So this is really important. Show me more, Spirit. Show me more. Show me more, Spirit. Show me more. For some of you, financially, be patient with finances. I do think things are going to improve in October here for you. Be patient with it. Perseverance will pay off. Spirit's trying to bring in some keys for you to really fix that stability of yours, financially speaking. Clearing around the energy, please. Clearing around the energy, please. Clearing around the energy, please. Clearing around the energy. Show me more, Spirit. Show me more. It's going to take a lot of strength. It's going to take a lot of strength, but you have to choose. You have to choose the strength, right? Because it's not for the weak. It's not for the weak to choose to overcome what you've already been wired to do, right? Breaking conditioning, breaking habits takes a long time, and it's not for the weak. It takes a lot of strength. And Spirit's calling you to rise up right now, which means Spirit is actually bringing some downloads to you and saying, hey, you need to do something differently. It's been a long time coming. Spirit was trying to give us free will to work through it the way we need to work through it, but it's due time that we stop in our tracks, how we've been acting, how we've been creating our external world, how we've been co-creating with the universe. Because if we want blessings, we need to foresee we're deserving of blessings. We need to conserve our energy so that we can manifest the blessings that we want. We need to see that we are worthy. A lot of the times, if you sit with yourself and you ask why you self-sabotage, and you really dig deep and you sit with yourself in that, the truth of the matter is you self-sabotage because you don't feel worthy of the one thing that you're chasing. And so you sabotage it. You play small. You're scared to go towards that goal, that job, that relationship. You're scared to take a risk on yourself and become an entrepreneur. Why? Because there's a part deep down inside of you, and it's usually your inner child screaming that you are not worthy of so much more than what the universe, what your parents, what society has deemed so. Okay? And so it almost feels like a rebirth is happening, and you've been feeling this activation since May, right? May, there was like a massive shakeup, a massive awakening, ascension for you guys. And there was like this massive shakeup being like, now rise up with courage. Now rewrite your story. Now is the time for the rebirth. Yes, we're in the ashes, but we're about to rise. And so now this is where the true strength comes. How do you rise when you burnt to ash? Okay. Anything else, Spirit? Anything else, Spirit? Anything else, Spirit? Anything else? Anything else, Spirit? They're giving you the keys. They're definitely giving you the keys. And so Spirit's saying right now, you need to really set strong boundaries with somebody, with yourself, right? A lot of the times when they talk about boundaries, we tend to forget about the boundaries we set with ourselves because we're not confident enough to set timelines for ourselves, right? For instance, we might dream of going back to school, right? And we don't feel worthy of it. So we hold it off. We're too old. There's not enough money. We make all these excuses, right? Set a boundary with yourself. If you truly want it, you need to rewrite your narrative where you feel worthy of it. And then set a timeline, set a boundary. Okay, I understand that I'm struggling with like going after this because it is scary, but I'm going to ensure that I go after this by October. And I give myself until October to fill out that application form and not a day later, okay? It's time to even start setting boundaries with yourself. And you know, for those who struggle with setting boundaries externally, right? You might benefit from setting the boundaries with yourself first so that you feel comfortable with what that looks like to have boundaries put on yourself. Because when you put boundaries with other people, they tend to not like it, right? Because they benefit from your boundaries not being put in place. And so you're going to have pushback on it, right? And you experience the same thing when you put boundaries on yourself. You experience some sort of pushback. It's like, oh, why did I do that to myself? This is way too scary. Maybe I don't need to deal with this now, but dang, I set a boundary. And so you start to really figure out the dynamic of that pushback and that boundary setting and the importance of it. And so if you can learn this internally, it's going to be easier for you to like really implement it and learn it externally. So that's something that you can try and do until you have enough courage to implement it externally. But it is time to change the way you do things because you are worthy of so much more, and it's time that you start seeing that. Clearing really energy, please. Clearing really energy. What is their advice, Spirit? What is their advice? Let me see if there's anything else they have to say for you, and then I have to go to the bathroom. I do have some people getting on the list. Let me just see if there's any last minute messages. Any last minute messages, Spirit? Any last minute messages? Yeah. October, there's like a new cycle opening up, one where you're more stable and solid in life. You actually have the security you're desiring. And so now it's having the courage to rise up. How do we start building that life? Because by October, we're solidifying something here. There's some clarity. There's some freedom, victory, wish fulfillment. But first, you must allow things to fall apart so beautiful things can be born, right? In order for you to be that version of self that you desire, you have to let the old version of you go. It needs to be eclipsed out, okay? And take those lessons that the old self needed and integrate it, okay? Turn that pain into power for your future self. You applied to 25 jobs. Love that. So I hope that helped. I hope you guys resonate with that. I wasn't able to keep up with chat just because, again, my energy is weaker because of me being exhausted. So it took a lot to just kind of stay connected with spirit in regards to that. My voice is like, I'm just tired. So I'm a very animated person. And so you can tell when my ADHD really kicks in when I talk because it's all over the place. And then when I'm tired, I don't get enough sleep. My ADHD doesn't really get activated because I have like that hyperness to my voice.